I'm here with my father, Leslie Hicks, and this is the 15th of January 2014. We're here at his apartment at People's Park Tower in Moncton, and I'm just wanting to get some information from him about different parts of his life so that we have a record of them. Dad grew up on a farm. He was one of 10 children on a farm in Hicks Settlement, not far from Havelock, New Brunswick. You told me about your dad. Maybe you could talk for a minute or two about your dad. You told me about some of his cars and about growing up there working on the farm. You'd like to share a little bit about that?
Well, as Gary has said, I was born in a farm, on a farm, in what was known as Hicks Settlement, which was partly in Westmoreland County and partly in Kings County. And it was a section of country that, when the original grants were given out, they were all the grants for a stretch on the road of about 6 miles. They all, with the exception of one, were granted to people by the name of Hicks. And this one that wasn't a Hicks, he was married to a Hicks, so that's how he was able to get in. And so, because of all the people being of that name, it was known as Hicks Settlement. And we had a country school, and I just want to say a word that those old country schools that they talk about now and make you feel as though you ought to be ashamed of them, that they actually were far better than they were recognized for. You started in grade 1 and you heard everything they taught to grade 2, or grade 1, and yes, you started in grade 1 and you heard everything they taught in grade 2. And when you got there, you knew half of it, and when you were in grade 2, you heard everything they were teaching in grade 3, and so on up the ladder. And even though they're kind of frowned on now that out of the school there came people that were doctors and whatnot, went on to college and so on. And I don't know, I just want to say a word in their favor. They were a lot better than they were recognized to be.
Your dad was one of the more prosperous farmers on that road, I think, wasn't he?
Well, I think so. There were some Hicks people lived there, as I've already stated, and some of them were known to be money people, and I guess my father, for the times, was considered to be quite well off. And as long as I can remember, we always had a car. And while other people, some of them had cars, yet during the Depression, they couldn't afford to license them. But Father always kept his going, and I think he even made a little money in the Depression days. So that's sort of somewhat of my background. There were 10 of us children. There were 7 boys and 3 girls. And I think most of us turned out all right.
And your dad's name was?
His name was Harley Hicks. And I'll just throw this in. My second son, Donald, majored in history, I guess, in college, did he? And anyway, he did a checkout of our ancestry, and we had some of the people in the background, at least in England, Hicks is an English name, who was a member of the British House of Lords, and he was known as Sir Camden Hicks. And we didn't quite get to see the Queen, but at least had a relative that was in the British House of Lords.
You were telling me not too long ago about this, was it a Chevrolet that he had?
Yes, the first car I remember would be a 1920, early 20s Chevrolet, and at that time Father could have bought a closed car with windows, but he chose to have sort of more of a sports model, and it had a canvas roof on it, and it had curtains for the side that snapped on, or in the summertime to be more sporty. You could take them off, and all you had over you was a canvas top, and the sides were all open. And I think that was an early 20 model. I'm not sure of the exact date.
Was it a two-seater?
It was a two-seater, yes.
So with 10 kids, of course, some of them would have been
Well,
grown up by that time.
We weren't all 10 there at once.
Yeah.
And he traded it in back after that and got a Pontiac. It was a 34 Pontiac, a straight 8-cylinder. The motor in it was, I don't know, several feet long. It was knee action, and it was a wonderful car, except it had one fault. You never knew whether you could get it started or not. It was pretty good in the summertime, but as soon as you got the first frost in the fall till spring, you might as well forget about getting the thing started. It was a straight 8, and of course then they never plowed the road, so you couldn't drive them in the wintertime anyway.
So you said it was knee action?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I don't know, it was something for a time, and I don't think it lasted too long on cars, but it was a lovely riding car. It just floated along. But a straight 8 cylinder.
So what does the knee act, was it there something that you operated with your knee?
I think that the front wheel was on like where it was fastened on the car was like that, but the wheel was here, and this, you see.
Okay.
The roads weren't paved then.
Okay.
And
it gave a smoother ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
When it hit a bump or a rock or whatever, it had just like you're lifting your foot up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.